Well, how soon will these blockades affect what we're able to buy once we hit the stores? Protests on the Ambassador Bridge are entering their fourth day. And already at least 2 automotive factories are slowing down production in response. This has a lot of people wondering what other industries are going to be impacted. Joining us this morning is Chief Economist at the Conference Board of Canada, Pedro Antunes. Welcome to your morning.
Well, thanks for having me, Anne-Marie.
About $300 million worth of goods cross that bridge, that crossing between Canada and the U.S. every day. It includes things like fresh produce, medical supplies, appliances. At what point can we start to feel the impact in stores?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I think what we're seeing right now, in fact, is what's happened over the last 20 years, which is globalization, free trade and essentially just-in-time inventories have really made things very efficient and very cost-effective. In other words, consumers have benefited from all of these very intricate supply chains by seeing reduced prices on the shelves. What we're seeing right now is the impact of these very tight supply chains and just-in-time inventories right away having an impact after just 3 days on some of the manufacturing firms. Certainly, when we think about produce, we can't grow greens here in Canada in the winter, so all of that is coming north, and I assume we're going to start seeing those impacts on that side of the consumer very, very quickly. But of course, trade between Canada and the U.S. is not just cars, it's not just medical equipment, it's all sorts of consumer goods. So the longer this lasts, the more we'll start to see these impacts at the retail level.
Well, you touched on this. 2 Ontario automotive factories, one in Windsor, the other in Oakville, both in Ontario, have reduced production, and they've had to send workers home already as a result of delays from the border blockade. So what kind of domino effects are we going to start seeing if the blockades continue?
Well, I think this, obviously, the longer this goes, there's going to be repercussions on the manufacturing side, some delays. Hopefully, we see the end of this fairly quickly. But I think in the broader context, what we've seen over the last few years here through this pandemic has been questioning these just-in-time supply chains. A lot of manufacturers are looking for more resilience in their supply chains, and we were thinking we might take advantage of a situation where we're bringing supply chains from North American producers closer to home, less dependence on the overseas markets. But we've seen an underinvestment in Canada, and this puts a question mark again on, are these borders going to be affected? We need resilient supply chains. Are we going to have access to the U.S. consumer as efficiently as we want? And it could start to have an impact on those investment decisions.
Yeah, and you bring this up, this is a pandemic issue, really important to point out. We were warned about supply chain issues since the beginning of this year. There were the weather events in BC, there were border restrictions, staffing shortages because of increased illness or vaccine mandates. What are some of the vulnerabilities that the situation that we're seeing right now at the border exposes in our supply chain?
Well, it just shows how dependent we are on international trade, for one. We know that about a quarter of goods trade between the U.S. and Canada goes through that bridge. So obviously, we need this infrastructure to keep our trade moving smoothly. And it's just one example. And again, this will depend very much on how long the blockade lasts, as to be able to see this actually have an impact on the accounts. But I remember back when we had the same issue with the rail lines, we did start to see in a short period, in short order, the impacts on production. It starts to show up as a real cost on the economy. And remember, the economy it's just income. It's the income that Canadians earn, and this is essentially what we're losing when we can't trade.
Pedro Antunes, good to have you on your morning today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.